I thank Geos and Cinema for supporting this panel. Uh, how many of you are interested to join a legendary entrepreneur today, few moments from now? If you are interested, then please drop your visiting card, business card outside the hall here, and you might be lucky to share the stage with uh, the legendary entrepreneur Deep Kalla, founder of Make My Trip. So feel lucky, please go, don't hesitate, and drop your business card just outside this hall here. I would like to thank our gift partner, Naturic Corporation Co. and the innovation partner AWS for powering this session as well. Again, just want to remind all of you at the background, kindly be little softer in terms of talking because it's making a lot of noise. And I love all of you to join here on the stage, on the seats. A lot of seats are vacant. Please take the chairs and enjoy this session. For the next session is a very, very interesting session, navigating the cross-border expansion strategy. For this session is powered by Payoneer, and we would like to thank Payoneer for supporting us on this session. For this session, I would like to call up on stage Ms. Sapna Dandona, Sales Lead Payoneer India, and the vibrant Seema Chaturvedi, Founder Managing Director of AWF Funds, to chair this session. A big round of applause for the wonderful woman here. Happy belated Women's Day, ma'am. Over to you, Seema.
Hello. Can you hear us? We are coming off the energy of International Women's Day, so we are loud and proud. So hopefully all of you at the back can hear, because this session is actually going to help each of your businesses expand. So thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Seema Chaturvedi, as he mentioned, and I've built a career around cross-border expansion. So it is such a pleasure to welcome Sapna. Sapna, welcome to Thai Delhi. Sapna Dandona is sales lead at Payoneer, and Payoneer is doing a great, do I say that right? Okay. It's doing a phenomenal job. So all of you SMBs out there who have phenomenal, amazing exhibits, this is the one session you want to be listening into, because Payoneer is going to be your partner in helping you expand internationally, and that's something that we are very excited about. So again, Sapna, welcome. And there's questions, and we can make it interactive for a lot of these SMBs who want to expand internationally. But starting off, tell us about Payoneer. What are your core services, and what are the primary markets you serve? What does Payoneer do?
Firstly, thank you so much, Seema. It's a pleasure being here. We've been here for the past 2 days, and it's amazing interacting with so many businesses built in India and really making for the world, right? So just to put it in 2 sentences, Payoneer is a cross-border fintech. We support SMBs globally. Think of anybody who's in India and who's servicing customers across the globe, right? You could be, let's say, a seller sitting in Jaipur who is listed on an Amazon.com or a Walmart or a eBay, setting their products globally to, let's say, a US, to a UK. Or you could be an IT company, or let's say a SaaS company in India, right? Which is selling to customers, again, across the globe. The problem statement kind of comes in is when you have to collect payments, right, across the border. And that is where Payoneer comes in. We become your payments partner, and we help you collect, hold, and pay efficiently all across the globe. So to put it in 2 lines, we are your business partners or your payment partners of choice the moment you decide to expand globally.
That's fantastic, and everybody needs a partner when they're expanding internationally. So tell us, Saloni, sorry. Tell us, Sapna, 1 second. If I can just get... Building on that, we do know of some other digital platforms that have come up. How do you differentiate as Payoneer from some of the other digital platforms in terms of features and in terms of customer service?
Sure. So let's maybe probably take a couple of steps back, right? And think about if you are a business in India who acquires a customer outside of India, right? Intuitively, what is it that you'll do, right? If you have to collect payments from outside of India. I think in India, we are very used to having a relationship manager, right? Or having a branch where we open a current account and having somebody on a speed dial, right? That we speak to and we say that, hey, I have a customer in the US, I want to collect payments from them, can you help me out, right? And the most basic thing to do is probably, again, open a current account, get a SWIFT code, give those details to your customer in the US and say that, hey, can you transfer this payment to me, right? Again, it sounds very, very simple, but it's not, right? Of course, it also needs to be said in India, we have one of the best banks and one of the best payment experiences in the world, right? If you have to transfer money to me, for example, right, you'll simply UPI it. You'll say, no problem. It'll take you a total of 5 seconds to transfer money to me, right? Similarly, between businesses, RTGS, NEFT, within a matter of hours, money moves from account A to account B, right? The disillusionment really starts when you start dealing with payments in other currencies, right? It's not like an NEFT, it's not like RTGS, right? Every country has their own payment modes, and Wire, which is the internationally accepted mode of transferring money, is efficient to a point till something goes wrong, right? So one, the kind of common problems that we hear is that, oh, somebody transferred $100 to me, right? 100 into 82 is equal to 8,200. But when I look at my bank account, I only get 7,800, right? Where did my money go, right? So that's one of the first problems. Second, oh, my customer says that they've transferred money to me, right? But money has not reached my account. What do I do? Who do I speak to? Right? Because when you are talking about cross-border payments, there is an additional added layer of complexity, which is foreign exchange. That's one. Second, there's also a network of correspondent banks. So it's not as simple as money moving from a HDFC to an ICICI. It's probably an HDFC to a JP Morgan and some bank in the middle, which is kind of enabling these transactions, right? So that's where the possibility of something going wrong kind of dramatically increases, right? Now, where does Payoneer come in and how are we different, right? We basically look at 4 tenets and we call them the 4 C's, right? A, can I give you the most convenient product? Second, can I give you the most compliant product? Third, as Indians, we love to be cost effective, right? So can I give you the cheapest product? And while doing 1, 2, and 3, can I really raise the bar on customer service, right? So that, in a nutshell, is where we come in and how we are different than anybody that we compete with, including traditional banks.
That's fantastic. And I think all those 4 Cs are very important for, like you said, all Indian SMBs. And as the government positions India for growth of SMBs, especially in manufacturing, I can see how this can be a solid engine for growth. So building on that, you've clearly brought innovation to businesses. What have been the challenges that you've identified, and how has your innovation specifically helped address those challenges?
So when any business in India, right, after a point, they decide to either find a market outside of India, which is when they start acquiring customers outside of India, or after a point, right, most of the export of service as well as goods, right, they see merit in setting up international operations, which starts with, let's say, incorporating additionally in a foreign country, right? So I'm sure all of us know startups which have operations in India, but they've incorporated in a Singapore or a US or some other country for various reasons, right? The basic challenges that businesses kind of face, right? It starts, again, like very intuitively, right? Just think about it. If today you were to set up a company in India and you were to expand operations outside of India, right? Irrespective of any line of business that you are in, right? First problem statement would be, hey, what do I do about sales and marketing? Where do I acquire customers, right? How do I even start, right? That would be the first one. Second would be the compliances, and they can be daunting, right? So India, our taxation, our filings, all of that can be complicated enough. And then the added complexity of taxation, audit, filing, VAT, et cetera, in so many different countries, right? So that's the second complexity that businesses usually face, which is taxation, compliance, somebody to really give you good guidance in terms of business advisory, in terms of how each of these countries function. The third, of course, is payments, right, which is where we come in. How do I ensure, like in India, like I said, we are used to a very, I have a neighborhood branch and I have a relationship there and I have a relationship manager on speed dial. But when you really expand beyond borders, right, who's that person that I can call? Because as a business, I don't want to be writing emails, right? I don't want to be at the mercy of a chatbot, right? And trust me, when you're dealing with multiple currencies, right? There's somebody paying to you in the US, somebody in the UK, somebody in a Sweden, somebody in a country whose language you don't speak, right? At that time, when you have millions of dollars in play, you don't want to be at the mercy of a chatbot, right? So these are primarily the problems which are associated with payments, and that's where Payoneer comes in. We are uniquely positioned in a way where we don't only support businesses in India, but let's say tomorrow, if you set up an entity in US, right, we can actually support your US entity as well. And how we are able to do that, Seema, is because we are not only licensed in India, we are also licensed globally. So we are a Nasdaq listed company, by the way.
Congratulations. I was going to
Thanks.
ask you, so are you headquartered in the US?
Yes. So we started operations in 2005, and we've been listed on the Nasdaq, I think, for the past 4 years. In India,
Congratulations.
we started operations in 2016. And we have licenses. We work with 100 banks across the globe. I have colleagues, by the way, who speak 40 languages, right?
Impressive.
So you'll have people like me in every country to kind of guide you, help you with your payments, which is where the promise of being a trusted business advisor kind of comes in. Also, like I said, because we have a global scale of operations, right? Which is why we can be more efficient than a local bank. We can be more efficient than a local fintech when it comes to cross-border payments. We have licenses in the US, we have licenses in APAC, we have licenses in Europe, we have licenses in Singapore, Japan, including India, right? So the way I would put it is think of a truly borderless banking experience, right? Where you're not limited with the fact that, hey, I'm in India right now, I need to work with, let's say, XYZ bank, right? Oh, now I'm going to incorporate in Singapore. I'll probably have to look up for another bank in Singapore, right? Oh, now I want to probably move to US. Can somebody help me with payments in the US, right? So that's where we come in, a single solution for your global payments.
So you talked about how daunting it is, and that is true. It is very daunting to expand, not just within the country, it adds a whole level of complexity that you've been talking about when it comes to expanding internationally. So SMBs by definition have limited resources. Now,
That's true.
in those limited resources, it's very difficult to establish a presence in a foreign market. So what can, per your experience and advice, what can be done to make it easier to expand in these foreign markets for SMBs?
So I think the first thing, like I said, was look at where you want to set up, right? I think that becomes a very, very important decision. Depending on the line of business you are in, are you into goods? Are you into services? Are you an e-commerce operation, right? I think the first important thing is where do you want to incorporate and why, right? Which is where having a trusted business advisor who can actually guide you that, hey, these are the pros and cons, right, becomes very, very important. With Payoneer, we of course are a payments platform, right? We are a core payment technology. But because we also recognize the fact, like you rightly said, right, that maybe an enterprise will have access to an ENY, right, and they will have unlimited resources of people, right, who can kind of guide them, help them navigate all of these challenges, right, but an SMB won't. Which is why we've also set up a network of partners within India, right? So if somebody comes to us and says that, hey, this is what I do, right? Can you help us in payments? Yes, we can. Can you help us networking opportunities where we can speak to more businesses like us? Yes, we can. Can you help us connect to certain experts, right, who can kind of help us in terms of taxation? How does VAT work? The way we have, let's say, payments in India, there is something called ACH in the US, there is something called SEPA payments, back payments, EFT payments in Canada, Australia. Can somebody really help us understand that? We don't know what our customers are talking about. Yes, we can, right? So this is where our partnership channel comes in. Let me give you an example, right? For example, for e-commerce today, in our partnership suite, we have everybody from an Amazon.com to a Walmart to a eBay, right? We have access to all of these marketplaces, right? If you're a service provider, right? We work and we have in our partnered network somebody like a Upwork, somebody like a Fiverr, right? And these are typically the kind of platforms that, let's say, an IT company would go and get listed from a discovery point of view, right? So because we have such a strong partnership and we've created this ecosystem for SMBs, right? This kind of also helps them get access to everything that is non-payments, along with payments, which is anyway where we are there to kind of handhold our SMBs.
No, I think the systemic field building effort that you're putting in is something that our ecosystem absolutely needs. But, just going back to when you were talking about the use of correspondent banks, et cetera, banks have traditionally held the sway when it comes to just making international payments. And I totally have lived the life of how complex it is. But the landscape is clearly evolving with increasing partnerships with companies like yours. So, what are the advantages of these bank fintech partnerships, and how do you see these translating to a more robust experience for the end customer?
So I think fintechs and bank, it's a very interesting relationship, right? In a lot of places we compete with them, right? In a lot of places we work with them. We definitely can't do without them, right? So, for example, Payoneer still works with banks, right? It's not that we are licensed to move money of our own, right? We still follow traditional banking channels. But I think the relationship kind of benefits the entire ecosystem as a whole, right? Because everybody kind of benefits, and especially you as an end customer stands to benefit, right? Fintechs bring in the technology, banks bring in the trust, right? And technology and trust have to go hand in hand when it comes to money and when it comes to millions of dollars, right? Let me give you an example, right? When we came to India in 2016, right, people were still using traditional banks, and one of the problems that they would face is there is a document called FIRC. Will not go into the technicals, but when you're moving money from outside of India to India, it is one document that you need. End of the year, your CA is going to ask you for for that document, right? It's an important document from a compliance point of view. And when we came to India in 2016, we saw that while banks were getting the job done, but just to get this document from banks would take about 2 months. Wow. And we were one of the first ones who came and said that, hey, we can just automate this and make this available in 2 days. And the rest of the industry followed suit after that. And today, getting a FIRC is probably a 2 or 3 day job, right? So we brought in the technology, which is how everybody benefited, right? Eventually, banks benefited, fintechs benefited, and of course, like customers benefited.
That's fantastic. Um, Building on that, you talked about the ecosystem contribution. What are some of the other partners that you have actively solicited to bring into your partnership fold, and how does one go about becoming a partner for Payoneer?
Sure. So in India, we have 2 or 3 different types of partnerships. Of course, like our global partnerships as well. In terms of if you're somebody who's exporting goods, right, or if you're associated with any of these e-commerce platforms, we have Walmarts, Amazons, Etsy's, etc. Right? Some of these marketplaces we work exclusively with. If you're somebody into services, I think Upwork, Fiverr is something that I'm sure you would have worked with. So all of these are a part of our partner network. Because like I said, creating an ecosystem is much more important to SMBs than only solving for core payments. Second, also ERPs, right? So for example, Zoho in India is one of our partners, right? Plus, we also work as affiliates. We have an affiliate model, right? Where there could be, let's say, chartered accountants, experts in their respective fields, right? Like business advisors who work with us in form of our partner network.
All right. So now let's come to your key end customer. How does one get onboarded to Payoneer? Is it a long drawn process? Is it a few clicks? How does SMB come to you and say, we want to have you as our payment portal?
Well, if you're in this room right now, you don't have to do too much. We're right there. So you can just come drop us a hi, and we'll be more than happy to get in touch with you. But other than that, again, we're a digital and tech-first platform, right? Getting onboarded with us is probably a 5-minute job, right? Come on our website, drop in some basic details, and then somebody eventually reaches out to you. And if you're here today, we would love to meet you in person and understand what your problem statements are.
Could you give us, so is there a minimum amount of transacted amount for somebody to be on your platform that makes it viable? And is there a maximum for a business? So, when you get to from the S, you get to the M, and is there a stage where you say, okay, Payoneer can or cannot support our payments?
So as an organization, we support any and everybody, right? We have, there is no barrier to entry, right? You can be a freelancer, right? And in fact, a lot of our customers in India are freelancers, right? You could be a freelancer, you could be an SMB. Globally, we also work with enterprises, right? So let me give you an example. Any host in Airbnb in India today gets paid by Payoneer. Right? Most of the sellers who sell on Amazon.com or some of the sellers on, let's say, a Walmart, eBay, based out of India, exclusively get paid from Payoneer, right? That's just us behind the scenes, right?
Fantastic.
So doesn't matter. You're an enterprise, you're an SMB, you're a freelancer. Payoneer does not have any restrictions in terms of minimum, maximum. Whatever category you belong to, we probably have a solution for you.
That's fantastic. So you talked about people speaking 40 languages. Does that mean you're in 40 countries or are you in more countries?
So we have about 2,500 employees. We have offices in about, I think, 18 countries. We speak 40 languages, which means we have colleagues in so many time zones, right? And yeah, in terms of currencies, we support about 190 countries and currencies, right? And that's the kind of scale that we have.
Speaking of currencies and the foreign exchange, how do you help a business hedge or de-risk the foreign exchange fluctuation?
So, the core in terms of the value that we add, right, is take out, additional charges, right, or take out the fringe charges. See, the problem in India, and I mean, of course, across the globe is, FX is not very stable, right? It's a matter of demand supply, which means that it fluctuates, right, like through the day. Plus, because of correspondent banking, right, and it just logically makes sense. The more hands money exchanges, right, the more would be cuts, commissions, etc. Right? That's what D2C does, right? You're taking a product direct to consumer. You're eliminating a middleman. This is why, or this is how the product moves more efficiently. It moves probably at a cheaper cost, right? So primarily, that is what Payoneer does because of the scale that we have globally, right? And it's because of the optimized treasury that we have. FX for us is relatively cheaper compared to what a bank would charge in SMB. That's one. Second, the costs around FX are not very transparent, right? So if you look at what your bank charges you, right? So there'll be an FX cost, there'll be a markup. There is something called, I mean, it's all boring stuff, right? So I'll not really get into it. But there is something called a wholesale rate of FX, and then there is something called a mid-market rate, and there's something called a retail rate, right? But just think of it as a supply chain, right? Everybody will take a bit of the pie, right? So Payoneer primarily eliminates all of that. We ensure that FX is transparent, FX is cheap, and like I said, our promise of the 4 Cs, right? Convenience, compliance, cost effectiveness, and customer service. So that's where our core proposition lies.
Wow, that's really good. But it's also good to know that an enterprise can scale with you, and that's something that a lot of the SMBs here need to have a dependable partner because it shouldn't just be that they start small and then they have to look for another solution. Are there certain countries that you do more business with than the others? Like is US a natural target for you?
So our primary regions are the US. SAMEA, for example, is a big region for us, which is South Asia, Middle East and Africa. APAC is a big region for us. China is probably one of our biggest. Right, and since we are a SMB-focused operation, right, it's primarily all the countries, right, which are basically now going to become the pioneers of export in the global landscape, right? So Vietnam is huge for us, Ukraine is huge for us, India, of course, right, and China.
That's fantastic. Are there certain categories or products or services that you see transact more? Do you track that and see what is being exported? Because then you can be a very valuable insight into also the export of services from India.
Yeah. So in India, I'll probably over-index on services more than goods right? In India, the top categories or the top lines of businesses that we've seen on board with us are IT services, right? We are probably the hub of IT operations, right? So IT, SaaS, of course, I see a lot of SaaS companies here today, right? The other one would be managed services, which is KPOs, BPOs, and any kind of outsourced managed operations. The third one that we've seen is digital marketing, right? So we're seeing a lot of digital marketing export, which is happening in terms of services, which is happening from India to other first world countries.
So it's clearly a very big services focus. Do you see any additional bottlenecks for manufacturing companies because now it's tied to a delivery of a product because service is more instant or you get the gratification of consuming the service.
Yeah, yeah.
But do you see the the process being different
Yes.
as manufacturing becomes more center for India?
Absolutely. Manufacturing is still probably the biggest, right? So services growing at a faster pace. Services will probably bypass manufacturing at some point, but manufacturing still remains bigger. So some of the top categories in manufacturing, right? So handicrafts, etc. Like these are typically, so textile, handicrafts, these are typically, and like machinery, plant, these are typically the top categories which get exported from India. And that's where we see most traction in terms of payments.
So, Sapna, this is fantastic because we in my capacity as funds, we actively encouraging women to be front and center as entrepreneurs, and we have here my partner in crime, a dear friend who helped us grow entrepreneurship among women in India, in Orissa. So, we know that there are a lot of women entrepreneurs out there. Is there something that Payoneer we can partner with you
Absolutely.
and bring all these amazing women entrepreneurs who have the products, and in fact, as part of our program, we had some brilliant women entrepreneurs, some of whom are exporting now. And right, sitting from Odisha.
Yeah.
So, that would be, is there appetite for that?
We would love to. In fact, I think we've just recently launched a program around Women's Day with Aspire for Her in India, where what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at women who are specifically into exports. What can we do, in terms of encouraging more women and kind of empowering them with the knowledge and the ease of business around exporting goods or services across India. But yeah, and I also kind of tell you in a personal capacity as an employee, right? Payoneer is probably one of the most, Payoneer is probably one of the few companies that I've worked in where the gender ratio, right, it's probably a 40-50% if I'm not wrong. Right, so we are one of those companies globally where there are probably an equal amount of women and men, right? So these colleagues in 40 countries, right, who speak 40 languages that I spoke of, probably half of them are women, right? So that's something that's very, very important to us as an organization, and I'm really lucky to work in a company like this.
So clearly, India is becoming more and more important for Payoneer. Is it in the top 5 of your 18 odd countries?
Yes. So
Fantastic. So for all those people out there looking for a payment solution, this is a great partnership. We would ourselves be very interested in partnering with Payoneer, and I know for all the people from TiE, would be delighted to bring some of our programming, and thank you for being such a supporter of TiE and TiE Delhi and TiEcon, and it's such a pleasure to have spoken with you, and looking forward to building on this partnership.
thank you. Thank you so much, Seema. And yeah, lovely to meet everybody here. And thank you to TiE for hosting us today.
Thank you.
If you can ask questions, anybody.
We do have a few minutes left, so if somebody is interested in asking questions, we could welcome a few questions. Any questions? I'm sure you have some question. I guess I do have as a supporter of SMBs. How quickly does money hit the bank?
Okay. So again, like when we speak about payments, right? Every country, like I said, is very, very different, right? In India, we're used to, hey, money should come into my bank account within 2 hours, right? But globally, it doesn't work like that, right? So a Swift channel, for example, takes anywhere between 1 to 3 days. Right? If you are somebody in US, right? So in US there is something called ACH, automated clearinghouse, right? Which is equivalent to their NEFT, right? It takes about 1 to 2 days. If it's a back payment, it probably happens in 1 day. Again, if it's a EFT, it takes anywhere between 1 to 2 days, right? So compared to Swift continues being a faster way of transferring payments across the globe, but typically international transactions take between a day or two with us.
So I guess there you have it.
Yeah.
A solid partner and money hitting the bank very quickly. Thank you so much again, Sapna.
Thank you so much. A big round of applause for the wonderful ladies here. And here is a small token of appreciation from TiE.